We're back for a never-before-seen part 2 of the Blues for Brothers. We had to do it after going 4-2 each in the wild card weekend. We come in to break in the divisional round. We will hear no protests. Dan, play that funky music. Welcome back to part 2 of the Blues for Brothers. Part 1. Thanks again to Dom for joining us. It was great to get into the Avs. I feel like we have a better understanding. I feel like we're fully locked in now, Ryan, and we're ready for the stretch run, and I think it's going to be a fun season. But we are in the playoffs. We are in the stretch run of another sport, and that is the NFL playoffs. Ryan, we both went 4-2. In the opening weekend, we are tied, despite your childish protests.
No, you don't get
put
to.
On Twitter,
you do not get to. You do not. Hold on.
Or ask Dan.
Hold on. You don't get to preempt my argument with your straw man, before I even get. Let me just tell the people what they need to know about this. We'll let the people decide. But you can claim your 4-2 for the intro. We'll let the true fans of the podcast tell us. We'll get some feedback.
Well, I can tell you, Commissioner Dan is a just man, and his ruling shall be upheld. And I have faith in the system. So, Ryan, the divisional round. Traditionally, this is the most fun round because normally we get rid of some crappy teams, and we did get rid of some crappy teams like the Steelers, but also we lost the 2 seed in the NFC, and now we have a 7 seed who is started out as a 10-point underdog and is now down to 9.5. And then you also have a pretty darn sizable favorite there in the Lions with -6 against the Bucks as well. And the Ravens are now huge favorites as well. So 3 of these games are hanging, either a little over a touchdown or a little under. Do you think are you excited about these games? Are we going to have some blowouts this weekend? Overall, do you think?
Well, I don't think we're going to get blowouts. Even I think if a game ends up over 10 points, I think the true NFL junkies like yourself and myself will understand that a 10-point, it could finish as a 10 or a 14-point game, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't entertaining to watch. So I do think that these matchups are entertaining, and I think they provide a lot of intrigue, right? There's a lot of things going on in these playoffs, which for the general enjoyment of talking about the games and thinking about how the games are going to play out, I think it's got a lot to offer. In terms of the actual gameplay, I recognize why some people might be a little concerned. I'm excited for this Texans-Ravens game. I think it's going to be, CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, D'Amico Ryans on the other side of Lamar Jackson. I think it's going to be a really exciting game. And the other game, obviously, that everybody is excited for is Chiefs-Bills. I don't actually think that that's going to be as close as people think it's going to be. I'm interested to see what your thoughts are there as well. But I think the sleeper, and we've sort of been talking about them a little bit, is this Packers 49ers game. I do not think that the potential big brother, little brother thing has nothing at play there. So I think there's really interesting, and obviously the Lions dynamic of they've never been really in this position in most of our lifetimes. That this is sort of new for them. And I am a little worried about them in a letdown spot, if I'm being honest. So I sort of think that these games are going to be a lot closer than the lines certainly make them think they are. And just like in the wild card, I think there's a lot of value on these underdogs.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend. Let's hop into it. But let's start with, I agree with you, potentially the most fun matchup. We have Lamar and the Ravens at home versus Houston and the Texans. This is going to start us off 2:30 on ESPN. The Ravens are favored by 9.5. What are your thoughts here, Ryan?
Well, I think the first thing is how the Ravens respond to this bye. So I think typically these bye teams come off and they're a little shaky a little bit. It's not necessarily that they look bad. It's just they are not as crisp. Those, first 20 plays, the first scripted plays that typically you see a team really excel in and be like, oh, it's, this is going to be an easy drive. I think I could see the Texans looking sharper for the first half. And I think that this Texans team is explosive. Like, they're going to test this Ravens defense, and I think that the Ravens are going to win this game. But I think CJ Stroud is going to have a big game. I don't think he's going to have a rookie letdown. Like, I sort of think that this has shootout potential, which is exciting to think about.
Yeah, I just am on guard here because last weekend I knew, and you as well, we told you, loyal listeners of the podcast, we said, hey, take Packers money line as well as that +7. That +7 is free money, but the money line is pretty good odds. What did we see there? A coach and quarterback tandem that have been kind of shaky in the playoffs with McCarthy and Dak. And to your point, Lamar and Harbaugh have not been great in the playoffs and in this spot. Now, new offensive coordinator, sometimes it just takes a while for the luck to roll your way. Remember, less than 10 years ago when people were saying Andy Reid couldn't win big games. The narrative changes quickly, but I am on guard for that. And over a touchdown, Lamar is 2-8. Or I'm sorry, he's only covered once as a favorite over a touchdown or more in his last 10 games. So I think this is too many points. I think that this is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be awesome. And I think the Texans are, even if they're down 15, your backdoor cover is going to be so live.
Yeah.
And so my first one, give me Stroud and the Texans. I'm taking them +9.5. What say you, Ryan?
I'm definitely taking them +9.5. And I think just to sort of hammer home your point, right? If you look at, let's work backwards, right? Let's just look at their last couple of weeks of the regular season. We'll throw out the Steelers game that didn't really have any meaning there. They kicked the absolute crap out of a Dolphins team that was very injured. They beat a 49ers team on a short week that was coming off of an emotional win. They beat a Jaguars team that we all recognize now is fraudulent. They had to go to overtime with the Rams team that we recognize as a relatively good team right now. They beat the Chargers 20-10. We recognize that the Chargers are terrible. They beat a Joe Burrow-less Bengals team 34-20. And then they got beat by the Browns. So, there's a fair bit of evidence that this team is not necessarily they won a lot of those games, right? Which is obviously the goal. I'm not picking them apart for winning games, but I'm just saying that they didn't necessarily beat a juggernaut of a gauntlet of teams to get to where they've gotten. it was sort of the rest of the AFC faded away in those last couple weeks, and they just kept beating these bad teams, which the other teams couldn't do. The Chiefs couldn't do it. The Dolphins couldn't do it. They couldn't win against bad teams, which is all they needed to do to take this number one seed away from the Ravens. Mark Andrews is not coming back. Like this team has dealt with their fair share of adversity here too, and I think it is I think I've talked myself a little bit into the money line play here, and I love the 9.5. I think, and I think to your point that you mentioned, I don't think you did it by accident. I think if you're going to play the 9.5, I think it's worth a sprinkle on the money line here.
Yep. Okay. So we are both locked in with the first game of the day.
I also think that Nico Collins is going to have a big game. If we're just looking at a player prop, if you're following our sort of game script of like, this is going to be a shootout, this is going to be a high flying game, and the Texans are going to be able to stay in it. Yeah, he was unbelievable. He was great. So I think it's just that's another angle to sort of look at if you're scared of the money line, which is more my play of like, I'm not going to play the money line live. I'm going to hope that they get behind and I get a better number, but I'm going to jump in on those player markets that I think no matter what, this team, the Ravens are going to score points, right? So like they're going to have to throw the ball, and Nico Collins is by far their best threat, and he's sort of like a vintage wide receiver right now where he's always open, and Stroud knows it. So,
yep. Only thing that makes me scared here is dome team, rookie quarterback on the road. It's going to be cold. So it's not like a slam dunk pick.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it would shock me if the Ravens blew them out or if the Ravens won the Super Bowl. Like, to be clear, I think the Ravens are going to win the game, and I think that the Texans are going to cover.
I agree with you.
Is there a world where Ryan says the Texans catch lightning and, Lamar makes a few mistakes? Of course.
We're talking.
The Texans have enough talent to make that a possibility.
It's one of those things where it's like it's your classic gambler's situation where you're talking about the value of the line as opposed to what you actually think is going to happen. Like, I think there's an equal chance that I can get the Texans at plus 330 before the game, and then they get out to a lead on a rusty Ravens team. I can cash that out at halftime and bet it back on the Ravens. Like, those are the type of things that, and it's you might not have to. That's just how I see the game sort of playing out, right? Like,
yeah.
So, and I don't think you're going to be able to get that value necessarily immediately when the game starts. You're going to be losing closing line value if the Texans jump out to an early lead and wished you would have bet it pregame.
Yeah. I would also look at over here for longest completion for both quarterbacks here. The Houston Texans secondary just sucks, and
they're so bad.
The Ravens love to blitz. So
I wonder what Odell's longest completion is going to look like. We're a little early in the week to be finding lines like that, but that's the sort of stuff that I think you could definitely be looking at.
All right. Then we're moving on. Saturday on Fox, we have Green Bay visiting San Francisco. And as I'm looking at it right now, it's gone back up, plus 10. I like the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan's 4-0, straight up and against the spread at home in the divisional round. He always kicks the ever-loving hell out of LaFleur. This is a compliment to Love, but I was literally, when I was watching the Packers game at a bar, I leaned over to the guy next to me and I said, man, that throw kind of reminded you of Rodgers. Like, he just bought just enough time. He moved his arm angle, and he hit a guy right on the spot. And it's, as a defense, you go, what the hell? Like, that should be a negative play, and you turned it into a 15-yard gain.
When he's got both feet off the ground.
Aaron Rodgers did, yeah.
It's like
Aaron Rodgers has done very bad against this defense, and that includes in Lambeau. Remember, he was favored against them and got smoked. So I just think this coaching mismatch is too big. I think the 49ers are 3 heads and then some shoulders above everybody in the NFC. I don't think it's particularly close at all. I like this team here. They've been able to rest up their stars, and we've been saying it all year. If Debo plays, if Christian plays, if Ayuk plays, if Kittle plays, you're probably going to get your ass beat. And I think that's for anyone in the NFL. Even the Ravens. I think if it was a Super Bowl, you give Shanahan 2 weeks, I think you're catching an L. What say you? You seemed intrigued in the intro, maybe by the Packers.
I mean, I am intrigued, right? In terms of in theory, I think eventually LaFleur is going to catch McVay, and he's just going to beat him. And I don't think that's going to continue. Or not McVay, Shanahan. But I don't think it's going to be this week. I think the talent of the 49ers is too overwhelming for this Packers team. The Packers have been an extremely impressive story. The fact that they got to the divisional round the year after they got rid of Aaron Rodgers is like some real just desserts. I just think it sort of ends here. I don't think it. I think it's a great story. I think it's a great experience for Love, and I think the team will be better for it. But I think they're probably going to. This to me has the biggest blowout potential of the weekend. And I think it could you could get crooked quick here. If Love turns it over, if there's a fumble, like there's just so many ways that this 49ers team could beat you. And I think it's eventually going to overwhelm them. I could see it being close at half, but this line is really tough for me. The 10 is a tough number. I know you cheated last week, so I'm tempted to just go on a different sports book and find a different line. But
I think there were some 9.5s hanging around.
No,
Does that affect it to you?
DraftKings
I don't think it's getting up to.
DraftKings is 9.5 right now. I think it does affect it a little bit. I think the 10.
Well, you're just saying you'd feel more comfortable with the Niners. Yeah, me as well.
Yeah. I want the Niners at that 9.5. So I'll take the Niners minus 9.5 here, with the caveat that I could see some weird Packers shit happening where they end up losing by 7. I'm not going to be spending any of my hard-earned money on this. So it's a be careful spot out there a little bit to me. Yeah, I'm more tempted to find an alternate spread and take the 49ers minus 20.5 or something ridiculous and just be
I'm more tempted to put my hard-earned cash on the 49ers. These guys,
you love laying these big spreads.
I'm telling you, they beat up on Mike McCarthy. I'm pretty sure that's bullying, honestly. And now they've got a functioning adult coaching the other team. Not just a functioning adult, but one of the best coaches. I think the NFC as a whole sucks besides the 49ers is kind of what I took from Wild Card Weekend with how Dallas and Philly pooped the bed, which I'm so furious. You know what? Let's just get into it, Ryan. We saw one man who eats crayons go down in Mike McCarthy, and somehow I put my faith in another man who eats crayons for fun in Matt Patricia running that Eagles defense. And so I would like to make this a rule for next year. I'd like you to remind me, if I've ever made a joke about this coach eating crayons, I'm not allowed to bet on them in this wild card weekend. We're going to call it the Crayon Initiative, and we are going to try to keep the playoffs Crayola free.
I'm happy to be a co-sponsor even, of your Crayola bill. If you also will be a sponsor of my "you can't change your pick after the podcast comes out" law, that I think should be
No deal.
adopted for the. Oh, okay. Well, for people wondering about your 4-2 record, your ears don't deceive you. Kyle did decide to change his pick after the podcast came out.
And I tweeted it out for the good people as soon as it was postponed. So
Who
they
is
could still make
using
money.
X anymore? Who is using that Elon Musk lie machine?
Elon mentioned it to me specifically. He
Yeah.
chatted with me.
Well,
about
that
it.
makes a lot of sense about why you think you
Yeah.
can just bend the rules to your whatever you think is right, Elon. All right, Elon. Whatever you think, buddy.
What can I say? Misunderstood genius I am. All right. So Tampa Bay beat up on Philly. They get to come to Detroit, who kind of got insanely lucky. It was a heartwarming thing. It was a cool thing to watch, but they absolutely mauled that wide receiver. And that would have been a first down, and they'd kicked a field goal. And I think this game's being played in Tampa with Stafford coming down there. And to be clear, I'd have been betting on Stafford. But here, -6 for the Lions, Ryan. That's a big number to be laying with Jared Goff. They scored 3 points the whole second half against the Rams. Like, that defense is really bad. And the wide receivers are really good for Tampa.
This is another save yourself from yourself spot. Like, just if you love somebody, if you love somebody, reach out to them and say, hey, don't bet on the spread of this Buccaneers-Lions game. Just don't do it. Just, save yourself some heartache. Bet on a Mike Evans over. Bet on a Mike Evans touchdown. Like, they're going to score a shit ton of points on this game, and I don't want any of my hard-earned money to be spent on Matthew Stafford in a divisional round game. And I sure as shit don't want any of my money spent on... Or what's his nuts?
Yeah,
Jared Goff.
Goff
Goff and Baker. You want me to choose between Goff and Baker? What do you? No, I'll take neither. I'll take Mike Evans over. Let me find a good player and just bet on them to do well. So
I agree with you. This is a stay away spot. This is
Laporta. Find a Laporta and a Mike Evans over 80 yards.
Do you think that knee's going to be feeling okay?
I don't care, dude. That guy is a baller. I trust him.
I mean, unbelievable that he played.
I followed Dan into the depths of hell on a Laporta anytime touchdown. And let me tell you, I loved it. I loved every depth of that hell. So I think... I just think he's a baller. Like, he's gonna catch some balls. So and Mike Evans has been having if they're gonna win this game, which I think they do have a chance to, if we're being very clear, I think Mike Evans is gonna have an absolutely bonkers game. I will say, for the people who, aren't maybe as well connected as us, I do have a source within a sharp betting group, which means that I got a deal and paid $25 to pay for some schmucks picks. They are a lot of sharp action on Rashad White unders, which to me just means that this is going to be a shootout as well. Like, there are just going to be a ton of points in this game, and there's not going to be a lot of running involved. So don't be betting on your Jahmyr Gibbs. Don't be betting on those things. Find a wide receiver prop you like and hammer it.
Yeah, the Bucs still suck at running the football. It was just that the Eagles appeared to be determined to let them run the football, which was true Jedi mind work from the chosen one, Patricia. He really did the Lord's work there. So I don't hate that. I think, God, you could ask me at any moment and I'd change my pick. I'm going to give me Goff and the boys at home. I have to stay in my, it's like how they say it doesn't matter whether you hit or not on 15 in blackjack, but just do the same thing.
No.
Every time. I'm just betting against Baker. I don't think he can have 2 straight good playoff games. I've seen him be too bad over the past. He was the worst quarterback in the NFL in Carolina. And they still had DJ Moore. It's bad. So
So
I'm going to take the Lions -6. I don't trust it. To Ryan's point, don't take that to the bank. Don't do anything.
I'm going to agree with you. I feel like it's almost better for the podcast if I do take the Bucks, because it's another situation where I sort of like the Bucks money line and the Lions against the spread.
Back door is going to be open.
Yes, very. And Baker loves to find a back door.
At the fourth. And
so
I would still be nervous.
No, I'm going to take the Lions here. I think the home field advantage is going to be too overwhelming at this point, and I think Baker is going to throw this ball away twice, even to a terrible Lions defense. So I just don't trust the Bucks turnover luck here. And if I thought that they had like a game manager who could really just rein himself in, then I would probably be taking the Bucks in this spot. But Baker is not that. He has not proven to be that throughout his career, so I'm going to stay away from that.
Yeah. All right, last game. Probably most exciting game from, like you said, a storyline standpoint. I don't sleep on Stroud and Lamar. I think there could be like 3 holy shit plays in that game that you just go, what the?
Yeah. They're so awesome. Good, Kyle.
Yeah.
They're both so good. When Stroud is making those, I don't want to. I sound like Chris Collinsworth there. I don't want to tell you about this guy, CJ Stroud, Kyle, but I just don't even know what to say.
The heart wants what it wants.
No,
but we've got the Bills at home.
Yeah.
First KC. It is -2.5 for the Bills. This is the first. A bunch is being made about this being the first road playoff game of Mahomes' career. So he's going to Buffalo. It's going to be cold. Their fans are going to be insane. Is this the year that Buffalo gets it done, Ryan?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I just trust Mahomes and Reed too much at this point, I think. And I mean literally too much. Like it's actually, they don't deserve it and I shouldn't be giving it to them. But I looked up the weather because that was a concern to me. Because if it's just going to be cold, that's one thing. If it's going to be cold and wet, that's another. And I don't think the Chiefs can do another cold and wet game and still win. Like, I think Pacheco is good enough, but the ability of these receivers to get open is real. Like, they're open. They just have to catch the ball. And I think they're probably going to have one of those games where they just catch the ball and Mahomes is good and Allen will make a mistake and McDermott will do something stupid. And then you've got 200,000 Bills fans within a 50-mile radius having a collective heart attack. And that is just going to be too palpable in the stadium. Like, I just don't think that this situation is lining up in a Bills fashion. And this Chiefs defense is good. It's by far the most talent that they've had on this defense. So I think that their ability to sort of like scheme up something, they've played a lot, obviously, so that's another factor to have to consider. But I think between the coaching factor and just my trust in Mahomes, I'm going to take the Chiefs here, and I'm definitely taking them plus the points. That's crazy.
Listen, rally the wagons, Dan. Play Josh Allen's music. All right, this is the year that my boy gets it done.
Is it sick of me? Is it sick of me to say that just made me feel so much more confident in my pick? Just how you did. Oh, the cockiness that came through with that. I was like, oh, the Chiefs are definitely gonna win, no problem.
Mark that clip, Dan, so that we can play that incessantly next week. Don't forget that Ryan is betting on a team because they looked good against a totally inept team. That team was absolute butt cheeks. Just straight butt cheeks. And you know who else was butt cheeks the whole season? The Chiefs. All right? They are absolute butt cheeks, Ryan. You are betting on
what are you going to say? Anything other than butt cheeks?
35 years old, butt cheeks.
You've been hanging out with too many 2-year-olds.
You've got stone hands, butt cheeks. You've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, daddy poopy in my diaper. Let me tell you.
Are you still hearing that?
No, I am not. By the way, congratulations to the Bodie man. He's had 3 days pooping his pants free.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we're 3 days. We should start us on.
Clean and sober. We should
start us on.
Yeah. But in all
do you feel more or less
that
comfortable that the Bills lost to the Broncos? Like, does that make you more or less?
So did the Chiefs.
That's division rivalry.
I mean, so don't get me wrong. What you said, Josh Allen throwing 2 absolutely unforgivably stupid picks is totally on the table, right? And that is a way that game can play out. I just don't think that this Chiefs team can score on the road and that they are talented enough. And while you talked about this Chiefs team looking better on offense and being effective on defense, they're not very good against the run. And that's the reason why a lot of people had them, including our podcast, to cover, that they thought they wouldn't be able to cover. Now the Bills are running way more. They've got Josh Allen. The Bills are now built in a traditional way to give the Chiefs trouble because it's, hey, we're going to run a lot. We have a quarterback who can make a few spectacular plays, who can extend some plays, and a defense that will bend but not break, keep everything in front of them. We've got veteran safeties, veterans back there. And I just think that this Chiefs team, like you even look at it with the amount of field goals, so they just didn't cover Rashee Rice the first time. And then every other time in the red zone, they couldn't score. Like they were kicking so many field goals.
You're talking about...
where's these Kelsey touchdowns?
Well, you're talking...
Last year, that was automatic.
You're talking like the Bills just beat the 72 Dolphins in the fucking wild card round. They beat Mason Rudolph at home in a snowstorm. Like, what are we talking about? And they gave up 17 points. Not convincingly. They were up 21-0 at halftime. and then scored 10 points in the second half, including
21-7 because these idiots got a a field goal block.
So another reason to just have zero faith in this team. I can't believe that this is like a classic. This is your classic betting advice 101 too. You do not bet against the Giant until they've been slayed. You're betting against Saban, you're betting against Belichick, and you're betting against Mahomes. Like, what are you doing? You're really taking Josh Allen to beat Patrick Mahomes? Are you crazy? Like, there's no way that is happening. So you're talking me into a smash spot here. This is a classic Ryan v. Kyle rivalry. Hey, man, don't worry about it. I'll take care of the betting on this one. Let me know what the balance of Bodie's college fund is, and I'll find the best line for us. I'll just fade you. It's fine.
No, I'm telling you, the Giant has been slain. And also, when you said don't bet against the Giants until they've been slain, you sounded like every NBA writer who told you that the Nuggets weren't going to win the championship last year. Well, traditionally, the Lakers have won 17 titles.
No, that's not even close to the Lakers haven't won a title in 10 years. But
I'm being a bit of a tool. I admit it. I wanted to loop you in with Lakers fans.
I recognize, and you recognize also that I would never let that happen. I just think that. Listen,
so I think the downside of my bet is higher than the downside of your bet. Mahomes traditionally is an underdog or favorite or under 3.
Well, the good news is you can change it no matter what happens. You could just change it tomorrow. No worries. I could change any of these.
I'm telling you,
tomorrow.
I'm not going to change it unless I'll postponed.
I might. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I might change things.
As long as you post it to the Twitter with your explanation and an apology.
Oh, that's it? I didn't see your apology. I'll look forward to that.
No, you have to apologize because it's strategic at this point. Mine was purely for the love of the game.
Situation.
And the love of the listeners.
Yours wasn't strategic at all.
No, absolutely not. It's like when Jokic rests versus when Embiid rests. I just happened to be hurt. But no, so to be clear, I think mine is a higher risk play. I just think it's right. And there is absolutely worlds in which Josh Allen does bad things in this game, and my feelings are hurt. But I can't shake what I've seen from the Chiefs all this time and these wide receivers, and I think that they're going to have
I don't know if we're going to be able to clip this, but the smile on my face is just so big because if I screw this up and the Bills just blow out the Chiefs, I'm going to be able to come on this podcast next week and be like, you know who I thought was going to be great? Patrick Mahomes. And nobody's going to look at me like I'm insane. Nobody's going to say like, oh, well, that's the stupidest. I'm not going to be on coldest takes. Like I'm not going to appear on any of that. But if the opposite happens, Kyle is going to look so dumb, which is just what you have to be appearing, making these picks on. Like at a certain point, you just have to, accept that you're wrong and your take is wrong.
Capes, Ryan. And I'm here with Josh, standing against NFL corruption. Will there be some bad whistles against the Bills?
Oh my
as
God.
Always.
Oh, you're making
We circle the wagons. All right. And can they stop the Josh Allen freight train when it's coming down and little Snead is there quaking in his boots? No, Josh Allen will thunderously bring his hand down from the sky and put his head through the turf on his way to the touchdown. Let's go, Bills. I also think this is going to be kind of an ugly game, by the way.
Oh, you do?
I don't think it's going to be like super fun. No.
That's interesting.
These teams have played a lot over the years, And both of their offenses suck more than in previous years.
Yeah, I wonder if if it's just like a classic prop market, because I was just about to talk about the player prop, so it's interesting that you said that. I feel like we've given out a couple little doozies on all these games, so we might as well touch on it here. The Isaiah Pacheco stuff has been just a gold mine in the playoffs and in this stretch, in terms of like anytime touchdown, because Kelsey hasn't been the red zone threat that he typically has been, so they've been going to Pacheco a lot. Do you have... Oh, excuse me. Do you have any leans there, or do you think it's just a stay away because you think it's going to be a low scoring game?
I think it's going to be really low scoring, so I'm going to stay away from TD markets. This Bills team, it's like they threw to each of their tight ends. Josh Allen got in. Like, I think they just have a lot of weapons, and then I think that there might be 3 touchdowns combined in this game. Like, I genuinely think it might be 17-10 at the end of this game. Because I don't think without the aid of turnovers or big plays, these are going to move down the field on one another. The Bills are...
Would you look at James Cook? Would you look at any of those running props?
I might look at over rushing attempts. That'd be something I'd want to keep an eye on. I think he looks good, and I think that they are going to try to hold on to that ball, and their offensive line has unbelievable continuity despite the hell that their defense has gone through with continuity.
The problem is that both of these teams are like almost too analytically minded. So like they throw a lot on first down, and if that's not successful, which it hasn't been a lot, then like that second down rush, often it doesn't get that many yards, and then you can't run on third down. So those rushing attempts, like all the props sort of get screwed up with these more analytical approaches. So it's hard to find value, but I'm sure we'll find some. I'll text it to Kyle and he'll tweet it out.
That sounds lovely. I love making money with the people. By the way, did want to shout ourselves out. We had a nice little, what was that, Ryan? Plus 135 for the Flacco pick and over 2 tackles for Myles Garrett. Beautiful little number we got in there.
It was wonderful for the listeners of the podcast. And if you were really listening to the podcast, you know that DraftKings didn't allow me to parlay a sack, which wouldn't have hit. But the over 1.5 tackles did. So
took money from yourselves, dummies.
Yeah, good job by DraftKings. We didn't call you dummies. We'd love for you to sponsor the podcast. I think you're mostly smart, but I hope I keep winning money from your site.
I couldn't have said it better myself. All right. We're going to be back next week. We'll be breaking down Nuggets. Anything else that happens, we'll preview conference championship weekend. I can't wait to have all my picks right. That's going to be great.
Can I drop a bomb on you? So this will be a true test of who's listening to the podcast, because this is a little thing that I thought of. I've started taking notes in a little notepad I've got here next to my desk of things that I just want to talk about on the podcast that I think of during the day while I'm working, and so I just started jotting them down. My first one of 2024 is, should the Nuggets consider trading Christian Brown?
Oh.
So, right. Something to
get in there.
Ponder.
All right. We'll get in there. We'll talk to you next week. Good luck out there. Go Avs. Go Nuggets.
Go Avs.
And
go Nuggets.
Hey, nice win, Lady Buffalo, too. Taking down those nerds at Stanford.
Sure.
Let's go. Colorado Sports. Blues for Brothers. Like and subscribe.
Also, fins up. One last time for all of our loyal listeners out there. I didn't just not recognize that Kyle was giving me some terrible when he was talking about buttholes. We all love the Dolphins here. We all love you, Mike, and you'll forever live in our hearts.
Overrated.
Well, we'll see how you feel about that in a couple of years. Bye.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Lucifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.